Welcome to Papers Simplified, a podcast brought to you by SILMA AI. Today, we're diving deep into the Gemma 3 technical report from Google DeepMind, dated March 12, 2025. This report introduces Gemma 3, the newest member of the Gemma family of lightweight open language models.
Right.
You might remember Gemma 2.
Yeah.
Well, Gemma 3 takes things to a whole new level.
Oh, it really does. It's pretty amazing. We're talking vision, understanding, broader language support, and the ability to handle much longer chunks of text.
Wow.
Think at least 128,000 tokens,
Okay.
which is like feeding it a short novel.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
For our listeners today, we're going to give you a whirlwind tour of the technical details,
Okay.
highlighting what makes Gemma 3 so special.
Sounds good.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll be able to walk away feeling like a Gemma 3 pro.
Let's start with a quick overview.
Okay.
Gemma 3 builds upon the Gemma family, which was known for its lightweight design and ability to run on everyday devices.
Right.
This new version has three major enhancements: multimodality, long context, and multilinguality.
Multimodality, does that mean what I think it means? This thing can process both text and images.
You got it. It uses a special vision encoder called SIGLEP
Oh.
that treats images as sequences of tokens, just like words in a sentence. They even have this pan and scan trick for handling images of different sizes and resolutions.
Hold on, so it's not just understanding words, it's understanding pictures too. That opens up a whole world of possibilities.
It does.
What about long context? What's different here?
Think about it this way. Those limited context windows of the past are gone.
Yeah.
Gemma 3 can handle at least 128,000 tokens.
Wow.
They do this through a mix of local and global attention layers. We'll dig into that more a little later.
Okay.
The last major change is multilinguality.
Okay.
Gemma 3 isn't limited to just one language.
Right.
It's a true global player with improved performance across a wide range of languages.
So it's like they took everything great about Gemma 2 and supercharged it.
Exactly.
Does the report talk about how well these new models actually perform?
It does. These models are trained using distillation,
Okay.
which means they learn from a teacher model.
Uh-huh.
The results are impressive, particularly in areas like math, chat, and following instructions.
Okay, so this distillation thing sounds kind of like secret sauce.
Yeah, it is.
But I am ready to dive into the architecture.
Yeah.
Help me understand what's under the hood.
At its heart, Gemma 3 is a decoder-only transformer.
Okay.
This is similar to its predecessors. However, there are some architectural tweaks that make all the difference.
Okay.
For example, it uses a 5.1 ratio of local to global attention layers.
Local and global attention layers. Can you break that down for me? It sounds kind of complex.
Think of it like this. You have a team of specialists working together.
Okay.
The local attention layers have a short span of 10,024 tokens. These are your detail-oriented specialists focusing on the fine-grained details. Then you have the global attention layers handling the full context. These specialists see the bigger picture. Together, they contribute to a shared understanding.
So local sees the trees, global sees the forest, and they work together to understand everything.
Yeah.
Hey, clever. What about the vision part? How does that fit in with the architecture?
The SIGLEP vision encoder plays a crucial role here.
Okay.
It's pre-trained with a variation of the CLAP loss. Think of it as a super efficient compressor, taking all the visual information and turning it into a fixed set of tokens.
So it translates pictures into something the language model can understand, right?
Right.
And what was that pan and scan thing you mentioned earlier?
Right. It essentially pre-processes the image. Pan and scan, or PNS, is all about handling those non-square and high-resolution images effectively. It breaks them down into smaller pieces, making sure no detail gets lost.
Especially important when you're dealing with images containing text. It's all starting to make sense now. We've got this amazing architecture, but how did they train this beast?
Right.
What kind of data did they feed it?
Gemma 3's training process is similar to Gemma 2, but with a few key additions. Imagine a massive dataset, even bigger than its predecessor and filled with both text and images. It's like a gourmet meal with diverse ingredients for a richer model.
So they really went all out with the training data. That
Yeah.
must have taken a lot of computing power.
It did. They also increased the amount of multilingual data, which helps with its language capabilities. Plus, they used the same tokenizer as Gemini 2.0, which is known for its balanced approach to different languages. This ensures fairness and accuracy.
It sounds like they were very thoughtful about making sure Gemma 3 is a truly global model.
Hmm.
But what about the distillation thing? How does that fit into the training process?
It's like passing down knowledge from a master to an apprentice.
Okay.
Gemma 3 learns to mimic the outputs of a larger, more powerful teacher model.
Hmm.
This allows it to perform at a much higher level despite being a lightweight model.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we've got this powerful model trained on a ton of data, but how do we make it useful? How do we teach it to follow instructions and be helpful?
That's where instruction tuning comes in.
Okay.
This is where they teach Gemma 3 to respond to prompts and follow instructions. It's like giving it good manners so it can interact with humans in a productive way.
So it's not just about understanding language, it's about learning how to use that understanding in a practical way. The report mentions specific techniques used for this instruction tuning, right?
Exactly. They use a refined version of knowledge distillation as well as reinforcement learning techniques like bond, warm, and warp.
Wow.
These techniques help train the model to produce high-quality outputs that are helpful, safe, and aligned with human values.
Safety is definitely a big concern when you're dealing with powerful AI. The report talks about how they filter the training data to remove any harmful or misleading information,
Right.
which is great. They also mention using specific tokens like BOS. What's the purpose of that?
Right. The BOS token, which stands for beginning of string, is used to mark the beginning of the text. Think of it as a signal to the model, letting it know where the text starts. They also use specific end tokens depending on the type of model. These little details help the model function properly and understand the structure of the input.
So we've talked about the architecture, the training, and how they make it useful. Now for the big question, how do we know Gemma 3 actually works? Did they put it to the test?
They did. The report includes a whole section on evaluation where they put Gemma 3 through its paces. They used a bunch of different benchmarks, including something called the LMSYS Chatbot Arena.
Chatbot Arena, that sounds intense. What is that all about?
It's like a battle royale for chatbots. Different language models compete against each other, and humans judge their performance. And guess what? Gemma 327B IT scored among the top 10.
That's pretty impressive. It sounds like it's a real contender in the chatbot world. What about other benchmarks? Did they test it on more than just conversation?
Of course, they ran it through a whole suite of tests covering a lot of different areas.
Okay.
Language understanding, code generation, math, and more. The results are really promising. Gemma 3 shows huge improvements over previous versions and even holds its own against big names like Gemini 1.5.
This is all incredibly exciting. But I'm curious, does the report go beyond just the standard tests? Do they dig deeper into how Gemma 3 works and explore its potential and limitations?
Absolutely. They do a lot of analysis to understand Gemma 3 better. For example, they do what are called ablation studies.
Ablation studies. I'm not familiar with that term. What does that mean?
It's a really clever way to understand how the different parts of the model contribute to its overall performance. Imagine carefully removing a specific component of the model and seeing what happens.
Okay.
Does the performance drop significantly or is it barely affected? This helps them isolate the impact of specific components and understand how the model works as a whole.
Oh, I see. So it's like they're taking the model apart piece by piece to figure out how each part contributes to the whole. That's
Yes.
fascinating. What kind of insights did they gain from these ablation studies?
They found some really interesting things. For instance, increasing the ratio of local to global attention layers didn't actually affect performance that much, but it did
Yeah.
significantly reduce memory consumption, making the model more efficient.
So they found a way to make it even more lightweight without sacrificing performance. That's a big win for users with less powerful devices. I know I'm always struggling with memory on my phone. What else did they explore?
They also looked into scaling the model to handle even longer context length. They did this by tweaking a technique called ROPE, which stands for Rotary Position Embeddings.
So they're pushing the boundaries of how much information the model can process at once. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And what about the vision encoder? Did they analyze that in more detail?
Yes. They investigated how the performance of the vision encoder is affected by different image resolutions. They found that higher resolutions lead to better results, particularly for tasks involving visual question answering.
So the higher the resolution, the better the model understands the image and can answer questions about it. This is all very impressive. But with a model this powerful, I can't help but think about the ethical implications.
Right.
Does the report address any of these concerns?
They do. Google DeepMind acknowledges the importance of responsible AI and highlights the steps they've taken to ensure Gemma 3 is safe and secure.
Okay, that's good to hear. What kind of safety measures have they implemented?
They've got robust safety policies in place to prevent Gemma 3 from generating harmful content like hate speech or dangerous instructions. They also do rigorous evaluations to assess the model's potential for generating harmful outputs.
So they're not just putting it out there without carefully considering the potential risks. What kinds of things do they look for in these evaluations?
They look at things like sensitive information disclosure and knowledge of dangerous activities. Essentially, they want to make sure that Gemma 3 can't be used for malicious purposes. It's all about identifying and mitigating risks before deploying the model in the real world.
It sounds like they're taking a very responsible approach to the development and deployment of Gemma 3. I'm glad to hear that they're taking these ethical considerations seriously. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. Can you give us a quick recap of what makes Gemma 3 so groundbreaking?
Absolutely. Gemma 3 is a game changer because of its multimodal capabilities, its ability to handle super long contexts, its improved performance in multiple languages, and its strong emphasis on responsible AI development.
So it's not just about pushing the limits of what AI can do, it's about doing so in a way that's safe and beneficial for everyone.
Exactly. That's what makes Gemma 3 so exciting.
Well, that's it for part one of our deep dives into the Gemma 3 technical report. Join us in part two, where we'll delve into some of the potential applications of this incredible technology.
I'm looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Gemma 3 technical report.
We've covered a lot of ground getting into the nuts and bolts of Gemma 3's architecture and training. Now, I'm really curious to explore how this all translates into real-world applications. What kind of problems can Gemma 3 actually solve?
The potential is pretty mind-blowing. Think about fields like education, healthcare, scientific research. The possibilities are almost endless.
Okay, let's start with education. How could Gemma 3 change the way we learn?
Imagine you're a student struggling to keep up with a difficult subject. With Gemma 3, you could have a personalized learning experience tailored to your specific needs.
So it's like having an AI tutor by your side,
Yeah,
guiding you through the material and providing instant feedback.
exactly. It could analyze your learning patterns, identify your strengths and weaknesses, and recommend resources that are most helpful to you. It could even generate practice problems and quizzes that are customized to your level of understanding.
That sounds incredible. It could make learning more engaging and accessible for so many people.
Oh.
What about healthcare? How could Gemma 3 be used in a medical setting?
Let's say you're a doctor trying to diagnose a patient with a complex medical condition. Gemma 3 could analyze medical images like X-rays or scans to identify subtle patterns that might be missed by the human eye.
So like having an extra set of eyes helping doctors make more accurate diagnoses.
It could also help with treatment planning. Imagine feeding Gemma 3 all the latest research on a particular disease. It could analyze that information and suggest the most promising treatment options based on the patient's specific circumstances.
That's a game changer. It could revolutionize the way we approach healthcare.
And it's not just about patient care. Think about drug discovery. Gemma 3 could analyze huge data sets of genetic information and chemical compounds to help researchers identify potential new drugs.
The potential for scientific discovery is massive. It's like having an AI assistant that can help scientists make breakthroughs at an accelerated pace.
It's really exciting to think about all the ways Gemma 3 could be used to improve our lives. But of course, there are also challenges and potential downsides that we need to consider.
Right, it's important to be realistic and acknowledge that not everything will be perfect. What are some of the challenges that come with using a model like Gemma 3?
One challenge is the sheer amount of computing power required to run these models. Gemma 3 might be lightweight compared to some other models, but it still needs a significant amount of processing power, especially when you're dealing with large data sets or complex tasks.
So making it accessible to everyone, even those without high-end computers, might be a challenge.
Exactly. Another challenge is ensuring accuracy and reliability. AI models are trained on data, and that data can reflect biases or contain errors. So it's crucial to carefully evaluate the model's outputs and make sure they're accurate and unbiased.
So we can't just blindly trust the model's output. We need to be critical and verify its accuracy.
Right, and we also need to be aware of the potential for misuse. Like any powerful tool, Gemma 3 could be used for malicious purposes if it falls into the wrong hands. So it's important to have safeguards in place to prevent that from happening.
That's a sobering thought.
Yeah,
It highlights the importance of responsible development and deployment of AI.
absolutely. We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of AI and work together to ensure that it's used for good.
So to recap, Gemma 3 has incredible potential to solve real-world problems across many different domains, but we also need to be mindful of the challenges and proceed with caution.
That's a great summary.
Well, that wraps up part two of our deep dive. Join us in part three, where we'll tackle some of the bigger questions raised by Gemma 3 and its impact on the future of AI.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the Gemma 3 technical report. We've explored the inner workings of this amazing model and even imagined how it could change fields like education and healthcare.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring to think about, isn't it?
It really is. But now I want to step back and look at the bigger picture. Gemma 3 is clearly a huge leap forward in AI. What does this tell us about the future of AI and where it's headed?
That's the million-dollar question. Gemma 3 gives us a glimpse into what's possible. We're seeing models that can understand and generate human-quality text process images and even reason logically. It's pushing the boundaries of what we thought AI could do.
It's like we're entering a whole new era of AI, one where the lines between human and artificial intelligence are becoming increasingly blurred. It's exciting, but it's also a bit daunting. What do you think the next 5 or 10 years will hold for AI development?
I think we'll see even more sophisticated models capable of handling even more complex tasks. Imagine models that can seamlessly interact with the real world, learning from their experiences and adapting to new situations just like humans do.
It's like AI is becoming more and more like us. What about the ethical implications of all this? As AI becomes more powerful, how do we ensure it's used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity?
Yeah, that's a critical question. It's crucial to have open and ongoing discussions about the ethical implications of AI. We need to establish clear guidelines and regulations to ensure that AI is developed and used in a way that aligns with our values.
It's a responsibility we all share, researchers, developers, policymakers, and even everyday users of AI.
Mhm.
We need to work together to shape the future of AI in a positive way.
Absolutely. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we choose to use it.
This deep dive into Gemma 3 has been incredibly insightful. It's given us a lot to think about. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I think the main takeaway is that we're at a pivotal moment in the evolution of AI. Gemma 3 is a sign of incredible things to come. But it's up to us to guide the development and use of AI in a responsible and ethical way.
That's a great point. It's both an exciting and challenging time to be alive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Gemma 3 and the future of AI.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to Paper Simplified. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the latest AI research. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.